So I apologize for this. Thank you very much. We have now a really interesting 1 hour panel, and I'm looking forward to hear it. And so right away, do we have everyone on the panel? Could everyone please introduce himself for a second?
Hi, Carl. Good evening, everybody, and
Good
great to
evening.
be
The
here.
host is here. Great. Thank you. So
Hi,
right away,
I'm Amina
over to
Abua.
you.
Thank you. Hi, thank you for having us, Digital Davos, having the 100 Women at Davos panel, and delighted to be here on the start of the first day of the Davos agenda. And welcome everybody to this panel. And it's a great continuation of the last panel, which is talking about emerging technologies. Because on our panel, we're going to be talking about the role of diverse leadership in emerging technologies. And entrepreneurship is really one of the key factors when we're talking about emerging technologies, because we know that the biggest organizations, tech organizations on earth, actually started up as entrepreneurial firms in the last 20 years. So here we are at the cusp of disruptive change, where emerging technologies are fast becoming mainstream. They are creating wealth, creating value, impacting our lives, powering economic development, from artificial intelligence to the metaverse, blockchain, crypto, NFTs, as well as DeFi, Web3. Some of these words were only really came into usage mainstream in the last 1 year, but how they're changing what is happening and more. But these innovations are bringing exciting new possibilities. Yet women, sadly, are notably underrepresented in technology sector, and particularly at the leadership level. Tackling access to funding and support for entrepreneurial ventures is a problem. Now, this conversation with CEOs and leaders from the tech sector, from the entrepreneurial ecosystem, will center around the challenges and solutions, importantly, to speeding up diversity and inclusion in technology and leadership. 100 Women at Davos is powering this panel, and we are a global community of impact-driven women leaders. We were formed alongside the World Economic Forum in 2019. We started out actually in WEF, and we then saw that we wanted to be inclusive, and we expanded, and we became Women at Davos, and not just Women at WEF, and we became 100 last year. Our impact has been felt right outside Davos, across the world, and at places at global gatherings of world leaders, from the UN General Assembly to COP26 to the Reykjavik Global Forum to Web Summit. Anywhere where leaders are, we are here, because the point is that we want to amplify the voices of women in leadership, because we believe that we're stronger together. So rather than talking about how few women there are, what we're saying is that the women that are there in leadership positions deserve to be heard. And why is that? Simply because the research has shown that more gender diverse leadership leads to better outcomes for organizations, for society, for global peace, for climate change, for peace, and just about everything else, including economic advancement. But it's slow, and that is our role. We are part of the UN Women's Action Coalitions. We signed a commitment with the UN Women in July at Generation Equality Forum, which says that we are going to accelerate and work towards accelerating gender diversity in leadership. On this point, I'd like to introduce our panelists, and I start with, we're missing Melva, but I hope Melva will join us in a minute, but we shall continue. So Olga, good evening, nice to have you with us, and Olga is the head of the Kyiv branch of Alex. For 6 years, she was the CEO of the Ukrainian Capital and Private Equity Association, where she is now an honorary member, and since then she has contributed to a great sense of personal devotion to the development of Ukrainian venture and business ecosystem. Financial Times and Google nominated her as a Changemaker New Europe 100 in 2016 and 2017, and she was appointed as Ukraine's Ambassador of Women in Venture Capital. Olga is a founding advisory committee member of 100 Women at Davos, a PhD holder and an author, and also she's actually lectures at the university as well. Welcome, Olga. We have now moving into entrepreneurship. We have Wendy Diamond. Wendy is the CEO and founder of Women's Entrepreneurship Day organization WIDO, which is a non-governmental volunteer organization and global initiative celebrated in 144 countries with a mission to economically empower women in business to alleviate poverty. Since the first Women Entrepreneurship Day, they have grown to become a powerful network for women in business and have reached over 5 billion people. Wendy, in addition, is also the founder of LDP Ventures, investing in social impact, disruptive technologies, and funds, making a positive impact on this world. Wendy is unwaveringly passionate for technology that grows from innovation, that has a positive social impact on the world, especially the underdog. Wendy has authored 10 wildly celebrated books and garnered 3 Guinness records, amongst other recognitions. Welcome, Wendy.
Thank you.
And now we have Valentina Coco, who is a CEO and senior partner of Anchor Strategy. Valentina is a former corporate leader of Fortune 500 companies with an engineering mindset and goal to create inclusive teams, support real connections, and lay the groundwork so change can happen. Valentina believes that to see the results we want in our business, life, and in the world, we need to start by taking small and steady actions that build diverse and inclusive cultures. So ladies, on that note, we just move straight into our panel. And my first question is this. Despite an increase in women's participation in STEM in recent years, men still heavily dominate in the tech industry, leadership, and some argue that this is related to there not being enough female role models within the industry. Being female leaders in the industry, what would you say to this? And can I start with Valentina?
Hope that I can work. Can you hear me okay before I start?
Yes, we can.
Perfect. For me, it's a mix, a combination of factors, I should say. Yes, undoubtedly, there are not enough women leaders in the sector, especially in technology and in STEM. At the same time, we know that the ones that are there are getting less visibility than the men founders, that the men CEOs, or the men entrepreneurs, the men counterparts. And we also know that the way that women founders, women in tech and leaders are represented by the press is often more biased than how men are represented. So I feel like it's a mix of lack of role models. As you say, we do need more women in leadership to have more role models for all these young women that are getting into STEM. At the same time, the ones that are there should be more visible and better represented. The other point that I think it's also an impact is that we see that more women are getting into STEM now than ever before. The number of women that enroll in STEM programs or they start as junior employees in companies in tech, in startups, in big tech companies is higher than ever before. Yet at some point, they don't reach that leadership level. So we also need to provide them the role model and make sure that the ladder doesn't disappear under them before they can even hit that glass ceiling that we say it exists for women in leadership. So I think it's a mix of having the role model as well as the system to support the young talent.
Olga, I wonder if you can weigh in on this and what Valentina said. One is that yes, maybe there are not enough role models, but also women get less visibility, right? So what can we do in order to get more visibility? Because at the end of the day, right, we find that when you have role models, people can identify, young women can identify. So really, it is an important issue. What are your thoughts on this?
Hi, Anina. Hi, ladies. Happy to be here with you. Unfortunately, not offline, but we have what we have, and I think we are enjoying this also. Yeah, indeed, I agree with Valentina, and the very important question you're raising is that there are many ways which are probably at the beginning like not visible on how we can empower women. I think one of the important things is which can also help to overcome this bias that, yeah, but you know, there are not enough women for these leadership positions, or not enough women in STEM at this point, or we cannot hire men just because there are no female on the market. So in order to overcome this, probably we should highlight women, we should highlight success stories and promote them, like to speak more about that. The other thing is, like, if we're talking in STEM and also about investment world, where I you know, like developing my career, is that unfortunately people are eager to unconsciously support others who are of the same gender. Is not happening because, like, you know, I'm a man and I want to support and promote men. Sometimes it's not that. Sometimes it's just the nature, and this is unconscious behavior. And therefore, more women in venture capital and private equity, so like investment industry, can be a small but important step into bringing more female-founded startups to the bigger rounds, like to help them to fundraise, and as that, like, as an instrument to use this for developing not only small startups that you know, like survive only till pre-seed or seed stage, but the ones who are becoming global corporations and global businesses. For now, there is a very big problem, not only in the world of startup founders, not only in STEM, on like engineers on different levels with gender equality, but also in the venture capital industry. Only a couple percent of people who make decisions, who are partners of VC funds or who are limited partners, they're women. And this is one of the issues that we need to tackle and to, you know, help in education. And this is actually the next point, which I think, and I am sure that every one of us agree, is that inclusive education is the key for all positions, like in STEM, also in financial roles, in the investment market. And on the personal level, I think is important also to speak up, and not speak up only on behalf of ourselves when we see inequality or we see the biased attitude to what we do and how we behave, but also on behalf of others, because depending on the character, depending on the situation, sometimes people cannot stand for themselves. So like promoting and lifting each other is one of the way to overcome this issue now. Thank you.
Thank you, Olga. You've spoken about the issue of unconscious bias, and you've talked about how we can uplift each other and, you know, promote each other. And these really are critical points you've made, and we are recording that. And I think that these are some of the messages that we need to share. Wendy, I know that you can weigh in on this, but just so that we can cover, you know, the questions, will move on, but I would, if we have time, I would love to have your input as well on that question, on the role models and how we can make sure that we can promote more women in the industry. Now, as technology and innovation are increasingly seen as critical to developing a more sustainable world, especially post-COVID, we are witnessing substantial levels of investment directed at innovation and tech-enabled businesses. In fact, I just left a panel in Switzerland, and, you know, one of the women on the panel was talking about a lot of money and cheap money that is actually out there. So there is capital out there. So it's not a lack of capital, right? Okay. Now, how can we actually encourage and empower more women to enter into this space, you know, technology, innovation, and entrepreneurship, because that is the bedrock of technology, right? Innovation and creativity. Wendy, you work across all industries, you invest. Tell us, what are your thoughts?
Sorry about that. Thank you again for having me on, and so excited to be here with everybody. Yeah, I mean, this is dear to my heart. I created Women's Entrepreneurship Day organization in 2013. And at that time in history, very few people were talking about women entrepreneurs. Very few people at all were even discussing it in the media and the press. Even UN Women were even talking about women entrepreneurship. So when you think about how far we've even come to today, is pretty incredible. So I would like to say is that, 1% of venture dollars goes towards women founders, right? And like what everybody, in kind of echoing what everybody was saying, the reason why I started Women's Entrepreneurship Day organization was to empower, celebrate, and support women from a ground up approach. Because if we're going to make, a systematic change, we need to include everybody, and we need to bring awareness towards the importance of why it's so important to empower women in business, right? And when you look at like what's happening where women spend their money, 90% of the money that women earn go back to educate their children, provide for their families. That uplifts the entire community. So when you think about that, right, you see the fact that this is probably one of the most important things in the world, right? And so, where we go with Women's Entrepreneurship Day organization is we work with governments, business leaders, civil society to collaborate to find solutions to uplift women in business. So we, have created such things like we were responsible for We NYC, where we got the city of New York to create this unbelievable program to support women entrepreneurs in New York City. Mayor Garcetti, who just became the ambassador to India for the United States. I mean, he created this whole initiative where he's dedicating money in their budgets to give grants to women entrepreneurs, right? So by doing this and creating this easy way for people to look at why it's so important is like the key to the game, right? One of the things that I also believe is there's no better time than now that we can empower women to become entrepreneurs. This last year, we created the first ever Women in Disability Startup Cohort, all from literally this one woman that I believe everyone in the world should know, named Judy Heumann. I'm sure if I asked the panel if everybody knows Judy Heumann, I don't know. Does anybody know who Judy Heumann is? Yeah, I mean, and she's like probably, at least in America, one of the most important people in our country and to the world. What's the biggest minority in the world? Disabled people. And she literally is the reason why we have the Disability Act in the United States. She's the reason why we have wheelchair access that's now being emulated around the world. And after bringing awareness to her and her work, I was inspired to create the first ever Women in Disability Startup Cohort. And we brought on an organization called Together International to do it. And Google for Grants just funded the whole program. And so when you think about initiatives like this is the key, right? It's about starting these little small programs and building it and bringing awareness towards it. And then getting these big companies to support it is how we're going to really create critical mass and help women entrepreneurs. So, that's what, our foundation works really closely with our government. We worked with Congresswoman Grace Meng passing a bill to support women entrepreneurs. We currently right now are funding 100,000 women in Afghanistan with crypto to create an ecosystem so they don't need to rely on banks and the new government, that they could just create an economy amongst themselves. And we just partnered with Stacks Coin, which is, they yield Bitcoin and it's a cryptocurrency. And what's really amazing about this is bringing traceability and transparency to where that money goes, right? And this is a pilot program that we're in discussions with the US State Department, because if we can create this in Afghanistan, we can do this all over the world. And when people want to contribute to support a woman, they're going to be able to do it directly into a wallet, where they're going to see where that money goes and what happens with their new businesses that they start. So, and about educating them on the importance of cryptocurrency, right? Because like let's just talk about Afghanistan, 40 million people, 20 million have mobile phones. We guesstimate about 5 million have mobile phones, whether it's a flip phone or a mobile phone, but to be able to show them that they can have financial access and be included in that ecosystem. And so I think really what's going on right now with what's happening with Bitcoin around the world and all these different cryptocurrencies, what the greatest thing ever has happened is that this is the most high integrity, deflationary financial instrument to provide financial inclusion for everybody. And why is it high integrity? The founders of Bitcoin, we don't even know who they are. They never ever spent one of their Bitcoins. They never transferred one of their Bitcoins. And they don't have power because nobody knows who they are. And when we talk about technology, the future is digital currency, DAOs, as well as Meta and the whole thing. But when you think about what's happening right now, it's what is the first DAO in the world is Bitcoin, a decentralized autonomous organization. So if we can empower these women in these small countries and support 100,000 women there and show what this is doing in their community and then emulate this all over the world, I believe we can truly change the world from the ground up and enable all women to have opportunities, especially in technology.
Wendy, thank you very much. You bring in two points I'd like to bring out from what you've said. You said quite a few things which all are important, but one, the importance of having a holistic strategy that is, with governments, with civil society organizations, with the big tech companies, big organizations, right? So in the big picture. But also what is interesting is when we're talking about bringing women into technology, right? It's not only from the perspective of working in the industry, but from creating for women to be users, so they see the value, right, in using technology. So if it's in it's Bitcoin or rather in crypto, in the example that you've given, and that also is a way to include women, financially include them in the industry, as well as including them as people, as opportunities working in the industry. So thank you. These are really critical and important points. I'd like to move on to another point here, is that one thing that we do see, we looked at the funnel. So in many of the big organizations, you might see, maybe not quite balanced, but at least a good proportion, right, of women coming in, right? But then I think Olga touched on it a little bit, and we'll raise that with Valentina. And the point is, so you have the entry, which looks fairly balanced, right? But then somewhere along the line, in the middle, and then by the time you get to leadership, right, it tapers off. But yet you do want to have women leaders in technology. It's critically important, one, because you're creating wealth, two, because as Wendy said, when you're looking at women and what women are doing, they are investing, right, in families, in society, and all of that, right? So it's a more inclusive way. Women, not just bringing women in as inclusive, but women are inclusive in terms of the actions they take in society. So this is critically important, right? So my question to Valentina is this, right? Achieving gender diversity in leadership, we all need to work to make it happen, right? How do we encourage a buy-in, right? How do you encourage a buy-in from all stakeholders and create a truly inclusive culture in organizations? It's a wide question, and please, attack it from whatever angle you'd like to.
Thank you for the question, and it's one of the topics I'm really passionate about, and also I think I've had quite a wide experience as my former corporate life and working with different organizations at different levels, and now with startups, from leading employee resource group to really being at a decision-making level. And I think there's a couple of things that you hear all the time. How do you get buy-in from the stakeholders, right? All of the books that you read about it will tell you, you need to first do sensibilization and training. Yes, we've done it all. Then you need to show them the business case. Otherwise, the stakeholders will, especially from the top, will not understand it. And if it doesn't come from the top, you're not necessarily going to get the buy-in from the whole organization and cascading down, and you're not going to leave the culture and all of that. And yes, you do need the OKR, the KPIs, the business case, the importance of it. It's all needed. to get a buy-in. Yet, in my experience, you truly get buy-in and what I call real buy-in. And I don't mean that it's a fake buy-in, but it's a more superficial level. You know, you had a training, you know the business case, and you say, yes, I get it. At a rational level, you truly buy into something and you really want to make it happen when you form an emotional connection to it. And so in my experience, the key to change the leadership in organization and change the culture has been to find the one way or the one key to make these experiences that people live by not being included, by being minority, by, you know, by being subjected to microaggression every day, which is also one of the reasons why a lot of women taper along their career, right? There is just a certain level of tolerance you have towards these comments that you have to sometimes hear every day for 10, 15, 20 years of your career until you say, you know what, I'm just going to do something else. And the way I've been able to get a true buy-in and see things changing in the organization from the heart is when we've been able to make this click at a personal, emotional level for the leaders and then cascading down, because at every level of the organization, and you're always going to get some leaders that are going to be more open, and for them it's a given, it's already clicks, it's already clicking. Others, they get it at that superficial level, but they don't understand their blind spots. They don't understand how their action are not necessarily reflecting what they think they've understood at the more superficial level. And only when you can get that deeper connection through different type of programs that we've tried. I mean, we've tried reverse mentoring, works very well. We have tried exposures in certain companies in terms of going to diverse countries and have, you know, programs where we send the leader in really less developed and less fortunate areas to see what life is. Depending on what we can afford sometimes at organizational level. When you see it clicking, you see them coming back from either program, that emotional connection then sparks 1,000 actions that before were just either not seen or not understood or not a priority, because now they get it. Now it becomes important to them. It's connected to a person, an experience, and something that it's inside them. And it becomes less of an us versus them, which unfortunately often is how this is perceived. You know, the activism, let's say, and all the organization that we do in organization, in companies, in political sphere, often is perceived, even by the more open-minded people, as an us versus them. Are we all wrong? Can we not say anything? Do we not get a chance to have a job? No, that's not it. It's just, how can we all lift each other up together? And that fear filter sometimes can only be lifted once you get this connection to the problem, in my experience.
Valentina, I love that, you know, because when we're talking about organizations and, you know, working on D&I, we need, you know, we talk about, we look at the data, right, and say that what is the evidence, right? And so we're talking about the numbers and all of that. But you have struck, you know, you have struck a different, taking a different, you look at it in a different way. That is to say that it's all well and good to have the numbers, right, and to look at it in terms of that rational side, but what actually makes action, and is that deep emotional connection, you know. I think that's, you know, that's excellent. Olga, would you like to weigh in on this? You talked about unconscious bias, yes. Can you give us, you know, some of the sort of solutions, you know, what are those barriers, and therefore what are those solutions that, you know, stop the move from women at the entry level going right up to the top, and how can we overcome these barriers?
Well, first of all, I can relate a lot to what Valentina says. Thank you for your words, and you know, thank you for summarizing. That's very important to talk about and to speak up about it. Yeah, about the solution, I would maybe it's related to my past career, which still continues in education, academic sphere. I think is very important also to tackle girls and boys when they're still girls and boys. I mean, at the very young age, with education, with looking how professors at university and colleges and schools address different people. I mean, not only in gender context, but whatever it is, which includes diversity and inclusion, and so educating from early years that may sound not related to, like promoting women to leadership roles, but when the young girl sees, when she's just a small person, when she's very, very young, when she's, like going to the kindergarten, and she sees that, yeah, okay, but I can be whatever I want. I can be the CEO, I can be a chairwoman, I can be the president, like I can have any leadership role, and this doesn't have any problem in her head, in her mind, and in her consciousness. So it is very important thing to see, and this is what I'm trying also to use in my academic career as well, like inviting guest speakers who are not only male, which is sometimes can be hard, unfortunately, I have to admit, in the investment sphere. But when you like put when you like sit and look, and then it's not a problem. Like there are a lot of great women, successful women with amazing exits, like amazing financial returns, showing the case studies of female founders. This is what I'm trying to use. And I have a funny story, which I shared in our 100 Women in Davos community, is that, so recently, at the end of the year, we were putting together the catalog of active investors. It's called the Investors Book. So this is the catalog of global funds who invest in the companies out of Ukraine or the region. And we were creating a lot of promotional videos, like short interviews with the VCs, as well as the animation. And so we received the list of the voices proposed by the video production studio for this animation. And okay, like we accepted, and we started to listen to the voice, and all the, I think like 20 or 30 voices were male. And I'm like, okay, very interesting, but like, don't you have any female? Like it's very visible. And the guy said, of course, we have a separate folder only with female voices. We just didn't think that it would be, relevant, because it's investments, it's venture capital and all this stuff. And this is my aim, like to show with these small things, like small, even it's just a voice. But then you understand that this is the voice, because this is the voice of venture capital in this case. So it's like a funny story, but I believe that the small steps can lead to not having this bias. And again, like starting from the small girl, educating both girls and boys that they can become the CEO or the vice president of whatever company they want, or whatever company they build themselves.
Thank you, Olga. And you've literally answered my next question, which had to do with getting young women in. So that's fantastic. And I think that some of the points we've covered here is that they're the big things you do, but they're the things that seem to be little that we need to do as well. What is the effect, the psychological effect of on young women when the voices that they hear, right, in a particular area are always male voices? Sometimes we think of these things as neutral, but they actually aren't neutral. They actually have an impact. Now, I want to go back to Wendy on the issue of entrepreneurship, because we've talked about technology innovation, we've talked about building our businesses. It's critically important, right? We cannot separate entrepreneurship, right, from technology. Now, that is where a lot of innovation is coming from. Wendy, there are 400 million female entrepreneurs supposedly in the world, okay? So we don't have a lack of female entrepreneurs. However, the businesses on the whole that women are building very often do not scale and grow to the level that their male that we see with their male peers. So numbers may not be the issue, but is that growing and scaling? Because we want them to grow and scale, we also want them to be in the industries where there's value being created. Can you talk that through a little bit to us about, growing and scaling and how we can get female entrepreneurs to be the Bumbles of this world, for example?
Oh no, absolutely. And I think it goes back to I'm going to do two things. And one really important thing I think is, there's a project that my foundation is partners with in India with 6 million farmers, and the majority of those farmers are women. And so when you think about this project, what happened was there was a real high suicide rate amongst these farmers because of their harvest failing and things like that. And what happened was the government and this organization called ZBNF came together and they studied everything, and they found that these women, that what was happening with the harvest was because of pesticides and fertilizers. So they did this unbelievable program where they literally transitioned all these farmers to go to the old ancient Indian ways of fertilizing their lands, manure, sugarcane, and urine, right? And what happened was the government came in, and the government then said, and this model is what should happen for every level of women in business, right? What happened was the government said, listen, we're going to give the groups, they're called the self-help groups of women, 11 women, and literally they give them a mobile phone for all of those women to share. And these women have like 1 hectare of land, and they might be, earning $1 a day, or whatever, $2 a day, right? And what happened was these women had to meet every week, and they had to create this camaraderie between them to work together, because every time they saved money amongst themselves, the government would match it, right? And literally these women were paying back these microloans that they were getting at a 98% rate. We're not going to talk about what the men pay, the men statistic, but you know what I'm saying? So when you look at that and those self-help groups, and how they're creating these little groups of women that are supporting each other, you need your camaraderie, you need your team around you to be successful. And I think, one of the things that I've taken on is I'm an investor, I'm an impact investor. I'm an LP in 5 amazing disruptive technology funds. I'm also investing in part of a fund that invests in cell agriculture and plant-based. And I'm also an investor in 20 startups. And 2 of the startups that I'm invested in are literally changing the world for women. One is called Bidversity. It's an artificial intelligence blockchain company disrupting the trillions of dollars of government procurement. And that's for the US, right? And because our government made a mandate and said that 44% of government procurement should go to women, minorities, and veterans. And they don't even get 5%, right? Because there's not enough women, minorities, or veterans that are applying for these, because it's really complicated, right? But what this company did was created this technology to literally go through these 500-page procurement documents to know exactly who could fit. And then they match these women, minorities, and veterans with a big company to get the government contracts. So they're enabling, and I mean, and it's incredible. Like, we just gave a $100 million, mask deal to a woman founder who would have never been able to get that contract if it wasn't for this company. So that's one of the companies I've invested in. Another company I invested in is called Open Grants. And everyone should go to it. It's called opengrants.io. And what they do is, it's another artificial intelligence blockchain company that basically is making it really seamless and easy for people to get grants. There are trillions of dollars of grants just given, non-diluted funding. And the whole focus of this company, again, is to support women, minorities, and veterans, right? And they match grantees with grantors. And once you fill out your profile, you never need to fill it out again. And when there is a grant, it'll automatically alert you if it fits what you're looking for, like what your target is. And literally through this project, now the US government they just passed the infrastructure bill and are doing a pilot in San Francisco to basically use this technology to bring traceability and transparency to government funding. and to enable to make sure that we now support women, minorities, and veterans, right? And so these two companies are like literally changing the way for women to be able to get more, government contracts, to get more grants, whether you're a doctor and getting a medical grant or whether you're an entrepreneur. There's so many grants out there, but there's not one place to find this, right? And there's millions and millions of dollars, whether it's a government grant or the Melinda Gates Foundation grant or whatever it might be, whether you're in India, whether you're in Africa, whether you're in New York, whether you're in Iowa. There's opportunities for everyone. And especially now, there's no better time. If you are interested in getting non-diluted funding and you're a woman, there's never a better time. Companies right now, like all the biggest companies in the world, have incubators, and they're supporting women entrepreneurs, and they're literally looking for women, right? And so I believe that there's no better time to be a woman entrepreneur, because there are so many opportunities. All you need to do is literally do a quick Google search with whatever sector you're in, whether it's in health or whether it's in, science or finance. And there are so many opportunities with incubators and grants and so forth to help you support your businesses.
Thank you, Wendy, for that, for ending on that positive note. That now what we're talking about in today's world is access to opportunities, right? That there are opportunities out there, and it's about how to access opportunities. And I think that's very important, because very often, when women set out and they can't access it, it's as if it's not there, right? So we can look at how do you access. You've talked about two particular startups you've worked, you've invested in, and how they're helping women. You also mentioned about incubators, right? And lots of organizations. And I wonder if there's an organization or company out there bringing that together, or maybe that's something that we can do, right? And put together, that sort of diary or or that access, right? Or that collection of these organizations, and let it update automatically. But I think that the important point here is the intentionality, right? It is finding where the problem is, right? And removing that barrier to opportunity. So there's opportunity, but how do we remove the barrier to opportunity? Because it's not just saying that there's opportunity, right? It's how to access that opportunity. And you've given us a few examples, and thank you for those.
I'd also like to say one more thing is,
Sure.
it's up to us,
Yes.
to really, each of us can make a difference, right? And everyone in the world wants to help. You just have to make it easy for them. So by how I work with a lot of the funds that I'm in, and these funds are in deep technology, right? These are investing in, crypto and DAOs and metaverses and et cetera. But it's up to me to really work with the partners of these funds and to say, hey, look at this woman founder, or hey, look at this, right? And it's like, I really take action in making sure that there is that chance. And, really, I think right now there's this new sector and ecosystem is so passionate about helping the world, and, one of the companies, or one of the things I'm in is Pleaser DAO, which is a fractionalized NFT company. And they just donated $1 million to save the children. And so there's a lot of money out there, and they're just looking for people that they can invest in that are making a difference. And whether it's a grant or whether it's, for profit or nonprofit, there are so many opportunities out there.
Wendy, thank you. And clearly this conversation is going to carry on, after this panel, and we really need to get together, really, because we can't do it on our own, and get together and see how we can basically turn, the opportunities out there into, or rather channel them, to women who deserve this and to make a difference, because that's really the only way. Working together, collaborating, we have the knowledge and the interest, and working together. So thank you for that. Now, we only have a few minutes left, and the question I'd like to ask is this, if you had a choice, right, about one initiative, just one initiative, that you felt could make a difference in advancing gender equality in leadership, right, or in STEM, or in technology, as you like, one initiative, and you could choose and you could do it, what would you choose? So I give you a few seconds to think about that, just one initiative, and to say that that's what, I'd like to do. And if I could, magic wand, what would that initiative be? Okay. If you're quick, you can even add 2. All right. If you're quick. Valentina, are you ready? Oh, you are ready. Okay, over to you, Valentina.
Oh, you tempted me with, if you're quick, you can add 2, because I couldn't choose. I was like, okay, I'm gonna be quick and add 2. I mean, if I had a magic wand, I would expand what I'm trying actually to do right now, which is bring this opportunity of finding reverse mentoring and create those emotional connection to everybody. Outside companies. I mean, a lot of leaders are fortunate to work in companies which sponsor this, and you can find a reverse mentor, somebody open, but a lot of people aren't. They are entrepreneur, they're in small companies, don't have this support. And if I have a magic wand, I'll just gather, which I'm trying to do, all of the mentors. There are people which have experienced this, they are open to share in a safe way. All of the people that want to learn, and potentially even with the magic wand, make them understand that even if they don't want to learn, they can always benefit, even if they've already done a training, and just get them there and pair them up for 6 months, a certain amount of time, to make it personal for everybody and just see that spark going. So that's the first thing I would do. And if I'm quick enough, the second thing that I would do is basically what you and Wendy were touching upon, and what we're trying to do at Anchor Strategy, which is we're looking out for women entrepreneurs, because they don't often come to us. I mean, sometimes they are afraid, they don't know how much they don't know how we can help. And I would actively just try and get a list of all the women entrepreneurs that are out there struggling that we could help, and then just go and say, okay, in our area, this is what we can do, and we'll do it. But hey, this is the other person that I know. This leverage my whole network and bring that network of connections that we all have in our small maybe sphere. Then when you expand it and connect it with more people, it becomes a huge network, and bring it to these female entrepreneurs, which, yes, they have a responsibility sometimes to go, as Wendy was saying, on Google and find the opportunities. But if they're trying to bootstrap everything, and I see it with a lot of people in my network, they have no time, sometimes it doesn't come to them. They're so overwhelmed with bootstrapping, raising money, getting ghosted and all of those things. So I would just magic wand, get the list, connect them with everybody I know, and see how we can help.
Thank you, Valentina. So we have boosting, getting people together, getting the women, finding women and entrepreneurs, bringing them in, and reverse mentoring. Okay, over to you, Olga.
Thank you. And, thank you for a tricky question, but very interesting one. Well, as I hear, along all our conversation, and especially during the last part, the most important thing is not there are no opportunities, not there is resistance of the society, which is all also unfortunately in place. But the biggest problem, I think, in the minds and with the confidence. So like taking the magic wand, I would like to make this change, this shift in the mindset, and bringing more confidence to the female part of our society, maybe sometimes to ourselves. I mean, I'm talking about me, and just not to care about any problems and possible constraints, like to be focused, to be open to opportunities. That will, I'm sure about it, that will stick to every and each of you. And then it's important just to choose the right ones, like be open to the world, and choose those who are close to your heart and your soul, and of course to your business, to grow in your company, or to promoting some sustainable aim which you're focused at. So the magic wand shall bring me and all of us, first of all, this confidence and focus on the things that we want to achieve, but not the constraints. And like this small, very small magic wand will make the following, will make people who probably listening to us and not sure that this is real existent problem. So I am asking the magic wand to read the book Invisible Woman by Caroline Criado Perez, about how our world, unfortunately, is constructed mostly for men, and to understand the problem exists, and this is the thing that we need to deal all together.
Thank you, Olga. So, one is that changing mindset, and the book Invisible Woman, to read it and understand it. Fantastic. Okay, Wendy, over to you, and then we can close the panel. Your magical.
So I'm going to kind of go with Valentina. And I had a dream at the beginning of COVID to launch a company called Be My Mentor. So if you go to BeMyMentor.us, you'll see it. And I believe everyone in the world is an expert at something. And to create a platform to connect everyone to learn and grow and have purpose. And so I'm going to make this out right now. I'd fund the whole thing. If there's any operations person that wants to do this with me, I would do it. I'm not an operations person. I'm a visionary. So, but I'm willing, I already spent a lot. I have a 100-page requirement document to create this whole ecosystem. I have 100 of the most incredible people in the world who have already signed up to be mentors, from the CEO of like Weight Watchers, Mindy Grossman, to the biggest investors in the world, to some of the coolest people, Hannah Stocking. She has 40 million followers on Instagram. I have all these people are already signed up, and I'm willing to literally fund the first $100,000 to make this happen. So, and it's called Be My Mentor, because everybody wants a mentor, and it's so hard, especially for women, to ask. So will you be my mentor, and to create that ecosystem to connect everybody with a mentor?
So here, thank you, Wendy. So here, another one, Be My Mentor. And one thing that I think has run through all that we've said somehow is this issue of community collaboration, working together, network. It's not doing it on your own, right? It's somehow interacting with a community somehow, whether it's a mentor, whether it's a community, whether other women, whatever it is, right? And I think that's one strong message that also underlies everything that we've said. But importantly, I think this has been one of the most positive panels that I have listened to, and I hope that this recording. Yes.
One thing to interrupt. I just saw from our schedule and was made aware that we are in a half an hour break after your panel. So when you want to go a little bit longer, it's okay. I just got this from my team, and I thought I inform you right now, because it seems you start with the closing. So
yes. Well, thank you very much, Carl. I was watching the clock. Well, so don't worry. We're going to move to part 2B, right, in a second. Okay. And really, what has been positive, right, is because all of you have given solutions and options and resources and availability. And I really hope that we get this recording, and we get the recording so we can share with women, to tell women that yes, it's hard, but these are some of the resources, the ideas that are out there for you. So ladies, we do have a little bit of time, right? Okay, and so we can move on to other questions, or we can even have it a free flow, right? Okay. Now, the question that I have here is that, not for you, but for those who are listening. So leaders who are here. So what would you tell leaders here who are listening? How can they, what action can they take to achieving more diversity and inclusion, right? In leadership in the whole, and in particular in the tech sector, okay? So speaking to leaders who are here, who are listening. So ladies, anybody who can answer that question, it's up to you. When do you have a last thought before you go?
Sorry about that. I have like a meeting to go to.
No problem.
Wait, can you repeat the question again?
Okay. To leaders who are listening out there, what action can they take to improve or increase gender diversity in leadership in the tech sector? What's your message to a leader out there?
Well, first of all, my message is not just to leaders, it's to everyone.
Everybody.
You can do whatever you want to do. You just have to do it, and you're going to go up, and you're going to go down, and you're going to fail, and you're going to do all these things. But you know what? The greatest gift is to try, and to really love what you're doing, and have passion, purpose, and positivity in everything you do. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you. Thank you.
I know
Thank
you have
you.
to.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye. Valentina and Olga, your message to leaders or anybody out there about improving gender diversity in the tech sector, in STEM, in leadership.
Maybe I'll go because I might be a bit less politically correct, so maybe Olga can be a bit more positive to close. And I mean, to say it nicely, my message to everybody is get out of your comfort zone. We are all biased. We all have blind spot. It doesn't matter if you're men, women, of a minority or not. We all have them. We just don't know what we don't know because that's why they're blind spot.
Right.
And we also sometimes don't want to find out because of our pride. And we think we are open and, you know, we've got feedback and nobody likes to hear or realize that they're not. It makes us uncomfortable to be called on our own bias. And trust me, it's happened to me. Actually, funny story on a course to my team on microaggression about what to do and what not to do. I was called on about, well, yes, we're not supposed to do all of this, and you roll your eyes so much that we can hear you from the other room. What about that? And, you know, it was an uncomfortable moment, and it's the moment I grew the most. So I'm telling myself and telling everybody, get out of your comfort zone, start learning, start asking people and have this conversation, because then you're gonna find out what your blind spots are. And it doesn't mean you're not a bad person. It doesn't mean you can't say anything. You're just gonna learn every day and improve the situation, the atmosphere for yourself and everybody around you. The more you know, the more you can do, the better ally you can be. If you don't know, you can't act. So that's what I would say.
Thanks, Valentina. If you don't know, you can't act. So, okay. Olga, and you, your message.
Yeah, that's great. I would like to highlight culture, which was already mentioned on this panel, I think by Valentina. But like one more time to highlight this thing is that like in the company, in our community, which we are a part of, is important to grow the culture when everyone can feel you know, wanted, where everyone can be able to have the right to go out of the comfort zone and to act accordingly and to become a leader. Maybe in some companies it should go like from top to bottom with some, I don't know, code of conduct, some softly, in a soft manner, of course, to promote the equality, promote the respect to each other, have, you know, like some, for example, we have the equal, which is not, you know, like the surprising current world, but in some companies it can still be an issue. So people can go for maternity leave and people can go for paternity leave, and both cases they're totally fine, and nobody will, you know, judge, nobody will say something about that. So like try to, on a personal level, on the community level, let's try to build this culture within our bigger society or in our small startup of two people. It doesn't matter. And if, you know, if you need some extra efforts, let's like from top to down, let's build some well, code of conduct.
Thank you, Olga. And I think the message is clear. You know, as leaders, as people, everybody, we really need to take those actions, right? We really need to do something, right? We need to be aware of our biases. We are all biased, as Valentina told us about. And with Olga is creating that inclusive culture where everybody can feel that they belong in that organization, right? So it's a culture change. And on that note, I'd like to say, ladies, thank you very much indeed. Thank you, Carl, for having us on Digital Davos. And that for those who are listening, I think that the message is clear, and I certainly will be delighted to hear from you. Find me on LinkedIn, and I know that 100 Women at Davos, you know, our members and people who are involved with us are really all very open, and wishing you all the best for the continuation of this amazing conference. Thank you, Carl.
Thank you for hosting this panel. It was really amazing. I hope we see us next year, this time in Davos, with a nice ambience. And thank you very much. Everyone was great. I appreciate it. And also I got just from Davos some information. The panel was live streamed also in Davos, I think in the Hard Rock Cafe. So great. Thank you very much for everyone.
Thank you very much, Carl. Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Bye bye.